Yo, what's goody with you all today? My name is RayGVT, and today I've got the rare deck profile for you guys. I really don't do as many profiles on here as I'd like to, but today I want to bring you guys a deck that I've been having a ton of fun with, and that's the Cyberse Firewall deck featuring Code Talkers and the main boss of the deck, Firewall Dragon Singularity. I've been playing this deck since we got all the firewall support and Cyberstorm access, but I have been tweaking it and updating it with some more stuff that we've received after that set too. Code Talker is already my favorite deck in the whole game of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I'm always looking to experiment with the Cyberse typing and decks that are available to us. This deck focuses on utilizing all your different main engine firewall cards like Firewall Defensor, Phantom, Guardian, as well as the new Cyberse Sage and Protect Code Talker from Cyberstorm Access 2 to set up and protect your Firewall Dragon Singularity. There's a lot of nice cards and combinations you can play to make this all happen, but let me show you guys what I've been running with for now. I do like to play my decks pretty pure just for fun, but I do run two different versions of this deck, so stay tuned for part 2 with the full power build, which utilizes all the resources of the Cyberse net to really take it to the next level. For now, let me show you what I've got with this build. So up first with our monsters is our Firewall engine, starting with 3 copies of Firewall Defensor. Firewall Defensor, I play this at 3 because its first effect of allowing you to special summon a firewall monster from your deck is very handy, especially now that we have some extra targets like Phantom and Guardian. This card is also a good protector for your firewall monsters from card effects because you can banish it from the grave instead of having that monster destroyed. Great card to the archetype, and next I'll go over the target for its first effect. Next is 1 copy of Firewall Phantom. This is one of your searches of the deck as it allows you to add any one Signet spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which comes in very handy as there are quite a few key Signet targets that we play in here, which I'll go over in just a sec. Its second effect is also good for saving your resources by banishing itself to shuffle 1 Cyberse monster from your grave back into the deck. This card is a really good addition to the archetype, especially for that nice search effect. Firewall Guardian is your next target for Defensor. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a link summon of a Cyberse monster, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. This is a good recursion effect for when we want some extra material back onto our field to keep linking off. Its second effect does come in useful too, but only when your link monster battles another link monster. A tad situational, but it does come up. So these 3 cards are our main engine for this deck, alongside our Code Talker package, and they really help just to get things going. Defense is a great starter to get things up and running, and when it's linked off, you get to search either of these 2 from your deck and keep it rolling. You've got a spell and trap searcher here with Phantom, and Guardian is a double summon card, which is awesome. Coming through next is 2 copies of Lady Debug. I usually run this at 3 almost always, but I have 2 in my current build just because I'm still figuring out my ratios with how much space that I have to use and stuff. This card is probably the best starter in any Cyberse deck. When she's normal summoned or special summoned, you can add 1 level 3 or lower Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. This is a once per turn effect. With how many Cyberse monsters that are able to be special summoned directly to your field available to us, this card is great for not only starting and searching, but also extending plays as we go. There's so many things you can add from this one effect, so I definitely recommend no less than 2 copies at any given time. Next up is Microcoder, an absolute essential 3-off in any Code Talker based deck, which works amazing naturally with our Firewall strategy. You can use this card to link summon with this as material from your hand, and when it's used to link summon a Code Talker monster, you can search any Signet spell or trap that you want and add it to your hand. If you don't open with Signet Codec, you can use this to search it and activate it, or if you do open Codec, you can search something else useful. We'll go all over that in the spell and trap section, but this card also has the added advantage of adding a level 4 Cyberse monster instead if it was on the field when linking off. This is all once per turn, by the way. I can't stress how important this little guy is to our Cyberse strategy. Parallel Exceed is another key card here. I only play 2 in this build because if you can summon one, you can summon the other. Very good for getting extra material out. And now for some of the one-offs that I play here. I play 1 copy of each Code Generator, Radiator, and Exporter. All of these guys can be used to link summon from hand, and they have some amazing effects when done so. Generator lets you dump a Cyberse monster with 1200 attack or less to your grave, which is great because there are a few cards that we do want in our grave when given the opportunity. And if it was on the field to link instead, you can add that target to your hand instead. Code Radiator, when used to link summon from hand for a Code Talker monster, it lets you target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and change its attack to 0, and also negate its effects. If it was on the field to link off, you can target 2 monsters for this instead. This is very useful. And Code Exporter, when used to link from the hand for a Code Talker monster, you can target 1 level 4 or lower Cyberse monster in your grave and add it to your hand. If it was on the field to link off, you can special summon that monster instead, but negate its effects. All of these 3 are very key and useful to the Code Talker strategy as a whole, and with new targets like Protect Code Talker, these all have great use in this deck. 1. Link Slayer. This is a good starter card when you're opening turn 1 or when you're empty on the field. Its second effect does come in handy, allowing you to discard up to 2 cards, then target that many spell or traps on the field and destroy them. I usually don't find myself using this too much because you always need as many materials on the field with Cyberse decks, but in case of absolute emergencies, it is there. Balancer Lord lets you normal summon 1 Cyberse monster in addition to your normal summon or set by paying 1000 life points. This is extremely useful, and the gates it opens up to extension is amazing. Again, a lot of the main deck monsters that we run can be special summoned quite easily, so the more you can get from your normal summon, the better. If this card gets banished, you can special out a level 4 or lower monster from your hand, which just adds more to it. I love this card. 1 Cyberse Gadget. When normal summon, you can target 1 level 2 or lower monster in your grave and special summon it in defense position, but negate its effect. When sent from the field to the grave, you can special summon a token, which comes in handy. This is also a good target for the extra normal summon that Balancer Lord gives because it lets you extend into more stuff with its effect. And 1 Backup Secretary. Backup Secretary is a free special summon from hand if you control a Cyberse monster, which is great. Nightmare Corruptor Ibli is good for our alternative win condition for the Cyberse strat and is completely optional, but very nice if you want to go with it like I am. I'm not really trying to Ibli lock my opponent with this deck, but if I have it available, I'll use it. And 1 Cyberse Sage. This is our gateway to our new fusion monster with Cyberse the Save Worm, and if it's used to synchro summon, you can target 1 Cyberse monster or ritual spell in your grave and add it to your hand. Though I don't run any synchrons at the current moment in this particular build, I still find this card amazing for letting you get out our new Cyberse fusion onto the field. Both Dotscaper and Sea Archiver are our targets for Code Generator's effect, as they both can be summoned from grave once they get sent there. Sea Archiver summons itself when a monster is summoned to a zone a link monster points to, if it was in the grave when the summon resolves. And Dotscaper can come straight from grave to the field when it's sent there. Both great keys for extension and good for link materials. And then up next, I've got Cyberse Converter, which is a free special summon when all you control are Cyberse monsters. And when you normal summon this card, you can target 1 face-up monster you control and it becomes a Cyberse monster until the end of the turn. Again, it's great for extension because anytime you get a free special summon, it's just nice. And then finally, I have both Scripton and Prohibit Snake. I love Scripton and its effect. You can banish 1 Cyberse monster from your grave except Scripton and special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a link summon of a Cyberse monster, you can target 1 banished monster and shuffle it into the deck. You can only use this once per turn. Again, I love this card because it allows you to get back some good material back into your deck. You can use this effect to target your Dotscaper or Sea Archiver after we use their effects and they get banished. And finally, Prohibit Snake. At the start of the damage step, if your Cyberse Link monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send this card from your hand to the grave. Return that opponent's monster to the hand. When your Cyberse monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, while this card is in your grave, you can banish 1 card from your grave, then target 1 level 4 or lower Cyberse monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. You can only use this once per turn. Very similar working to Scripton for allowing us to get back some valuable resources, so that's why we got both of them in here. And that's it for our main deck monsters. You can play around and adjust ratios as you see fit. I'm playing what's working for me now, but I'm thinking of still making some adjustments to it. There are so many different Cyberse monsters and card combinations that you can play around with, so again, feel free to experiment. Let's move on to spells and traps, and we play the 2 essential 3-ofs with both Cynet Mining and Cynet Codec. Mining is our search card. You send 1 card from your hand to the grave and then add a level 4 or lower Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. Very essential card. Again, there are some cards that we want to get into the grave whenever given the opportunity, and this is good for also helping us with exactly that. Cynet Codec is our main engine for the Code Talker side of the deck. This is also a card that I see as essential at 3 in any Code Talker based deck. Every time a Code Talker monster is special summoned from the extra deck to the field, you can target 1 of those monsters and add 1 Cyberse Cyberse monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand. You cannot add any other monsters with the same attribute to your hand by the effect of YGOprodeck the same turn, and this is only a once per chain effect. To put it simply, whenever you special summon a Code Talker monster from your extra deck, this card allows you to search your deck for a monster with the same attribute as the Code Talker that you just summoned and add it to your hand. And then next up is one Signet Optimization and one Signet Ritual. Optimization freezes your opponent from responding whenever a Code Talker monster battles, and it gives you an extra normal summon too, which in a Cyberse deck is amazing. This card is mad underrated, but I think playing at least one in every Code Talker based deck is important. And Ritual is how we get Sage onto the field and continue that line. It also has the bonus effect of if you control no monsters, you can banish this card and one Ritual monster from your grave and special summon 2 Signet tokens. But you can't activate this effect the same turn that it's sent to the grave. The bonus effect is really nice though. One copy of Signet Rollback. Signet Rollback is pretty cool for starting the comeback plays. And lastly, just 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Turning off problematic decks that can stop this is very important and very nice to have. For traps, I play 2 Signet Conflicts and 1 Signet Circuit. Signet Circuit is a really cool card. You target 1 Firewall Link monster that you control and special summon any number of monsters from your grave to either player's zones linked to that monster. If your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from your grave, return 1 Firewall Link monster from your grave to the extra deck, then you can special summon that monster from your extra deck. I like this card for a few reasons. If your graveyard is loaded, you can pretty much reset or set up the board as you wish. And with how many Link monsters gain extra boosts when linked in this deck, you can do it however you want. Don't forget that you can use your opponent's field too, so get strategic. Its second effect is cool too, allowing you to return a Firewall Link monster from your grave back to your extra deck, then special summon it. Finally, moving into the extra deck, I play our primary Firewall Dragon, starting with the original Firewall Dragon, a card that will always be one of my favorites, Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. This card is so good now that Firewall has proper support. It's your big spell and trap negator for every counter on it during the battle phase only. And the more extra deck types that you have in your grave, the stronger it is. So definitely try and fit in some Synchro and Xyz cards in here if you can. I just don't have the space for it, but we can definitely make some. And Neo Tempest is the amped up version of Dark Fluid, and its effect is more streamlined, allowing you to negate any monster's effects activated by your opponent during the battle phase. It also lets you send 1 Cyberse from your deck or extra deck to the grave and gains the attribute of the monster, and then gains 2500 attack on top of that. This card really helps you set up your grave for the big Singularity play, which is really cool. I love this card. And then of course we have our big boss Firewall Dragon Singularity. You can target cards your opponent controls or in their grave up to the number of different card types that you control and in your graveyard, so that's Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz, and return them to the hand. This card also gains 500 attack for each return card. If a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the grave, you can target 1 Cyberse monster in your grave and special summon it. This is a once per turn effect. So essentially, this card has a super bounce effect that gets stronger with the more monster types that you control and in your grave. It's also got a monster reborn effect. When a card it points to gets destroyed, you can special summon a Cyberse monster from your grave. This is now what we're working towards to, as this is our big main boss of the deck now. And then 1 copy of Deceive Worm. We summon this off of Cyberse Sage. It lets you special a Cyberse monster from your hand, and then it has a nice level changing effect. It's also a spell and trap negated by banishing itself from the field or grave. And then now for our Code Talkers, I play 1 Talkback Lancer for our Link 1, 1 Code Talker for our Link 2, 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Heat Soul, and 1 Protect Code Talker. This guy is supposed to be set up right underneath your Singularity. It protects our Link 4s and higher, and if you control a Firewall Link monster, you can reborn this card from your grave by banishing monsters that equal Link 3 or higher. This not only keeps our Firewall safe, but always leaves a way for us to have some protection even when it's off field. And even when it does leave the field, we can use the effect of our Singularity to bring it back from the grave so it stays on the field as much as possible. And of course, 1 Access Code Talker. This is our Link 4 for the deck. I play Access Code because he belongs in here, not just because it's Access Code. He definitely belongs in here. This is his deck, so yeah. Cyber Switch is what helps us get both our Sage and Signet spell to our hands so we can get Sage's effect and into Deceive Worm. Extremely helpful. And our other essentials here, 1 Avermax, 1 Update Jammer, and 1 Splash Mage. And that's it for my main deck Firewall. Now, one thing to keep in mind again is that I'm still playing with ratios and stuff, so this is more just what I'm playing at this moment in time. If you're playing with this deck, definitely play around and see what works out for you. It's not focused on U-locking or anything because we're trying to maximize on our Firewall monsters, so that's the direction that I'm going. Now, similar to what I did last time with both of my Galaxy Eyes deck profiles, I want to give you guys some alternative cards and suggestions that you can run in a deck like this. The Cyberse typing is huge, but most of its cards synergize very well with each other, so it's kind of hard not to make this list long, but I'll give you guys a few suggestions. Okay, so firstly is the Synchron pack with both Cyberse Synchron and Cyberse Integrator. These are great additions in the deck because the more synchro stuff that we have access to, the better. And any chance we can synchro to make use of our other Firewall effects is very good and just helps us out a lot. The only reason I'm not main decking them right now is because this is exactly a 40 card deck and I don't really want to go over that even for just one extra card. Although you can afford to, realistically. And also the extra deck is stacked already and the only thing that I can consider removing is Splash Mage, but that card is just too useful for us in this specific build. Widget Kid is one of my personal favorite Cyberse monsters. He just gives you a free special summon of a Cyberse monster from your hand in defense position, just like that. And that's huge for a deck like this, especially if you have optimization active, which already gives you an extra normal summon, and then on top of this too. This opens doors for other Cyberse monsters to just pop off too. Clock Wyvern is also another really good card for its token summon and is a nice extender. I don't run Clock Dragon in this particular build, but even without, you're still getting a lot out of this card. I don't have it on me right now, but Stack Reviver is good for material recycle, and Degrade Buster is a card that I ran with for a while, but removed to make space for other stuff. And lastly, I would definitely just try to fit the Cyberse Synchron in there, just so we have more options for the integrator, but still figuring out how and where I'd put it. Silent Crosswipe and Backdoor are good for both removal and protection, and Silent Regression is a decent card to play as well because we do a lot of link summoning in this deck. For extra deck stuff, I really wanted to play Exceed Dragon just to complete the Firewall Legacy, but I just have no room to fit it in and I don't know if it's worth removing some of the other essentials in the extra deck. It's such a cool card though, and it's probably my favorite Firewall monster right next to the original Firewall Dragon. And also Cyberse Quantum Dragon is also another great one to consider. I say if you do decide to add the Synchron pack into this deck, this is definitely a card that you should add too. Feel free to add, remove, and adjust ratios as you see fit with this one. It's a very flexible deck with Cyberse and such. Once again, this isn't a deck that focuses too much on U-locking your opponent, rather just setting up your Firewall monsters on the board to take advantage of each other. This is also more of a pure build, focusing mainly on the Firewall strategy and Code Talker support, so I'm not playing any math mechs in here or anything. However, do stay tuned because I'll be having another profile on the more powered up version of this deck, which I've also been playing for tourneys and such, which utilizes math mechs and ignistas to take advantage of the full Cyber strategy. So stick around for that. Anyways guys, that's gonna wrap it up. See you guys back here for part 2 again, and I'll catch you guys in the duel arena.